What's going on, everyone? My name is Cruisin, and I'm here today with a Stationeers video showing off a project that I've been working on recently that came out pretty cool, pretty proud of it, and I just wanted to show you guys what I did, and in case you like it and want to do something similar in your game. So it's a pretty big project. I'm going to walk you through kind of what it is and what's involved and how to do it. But if you have any questions, or I don't explain anything very well, or even if you have any suggestions, leave a comment below and let me know. I'd love to hear it. So what is the project? So my thought, what I wanted to do here was essentially eliminate all form of having to gather ore, because after 100 or so hours playing this game, and you're in the super late game, and I'm starting to do these big builds, I want to work on these cool projects, automations, all that kind of stuff. The last thing that I wanted to be worrying about was mining. So luckily the rocket update came out recently and gave the answer to everything I could ever want. So what I have here is a setup that is completely self-sustaining and will give me all of the ore I could ever need so that I can build whatever I want. So let's get into it. I'll just kind of walk you through how it works, and then at the end, for now I'll try to keep it kind of high level. I'll just walk you through the whole process, where it's all built and how it works, and then at the end I'll get in a little bit more detail, and I'll show you the code that I use at the end here. So the rocket itself is pretty straightforward. There's a bunch of code out on the workshop if you want a simple rocket that will just kind of launch and come back. So no need to go into that. I'm going to talk about everything else here, but essentially we're here in my control room, and this is pretty straightforward. I got a full view of the rocket, and then everything I need to control it right here, where I can track the mode, so what it's doing right now, how much fuel is in it, and how much is in the storage silo, as well as manual controls for opening the silo and bringing it home early if I were to want to do that. And then above it here, I just have some LED displays that show me how many stacks of each type of ore I have currently. So iron, copper, gold, etc. And this way I can just keep track of if I'm running low on anything. So with that said, let's launch this thing and we'll get into the build. Never gets old. Alright, so rocket launches, and while it's out collecting things, I will show you how it works. And hopefully by the end, it will be back. So this is the final product. I have this hash display here where I can kind of cycle through the type of ore I want. And I push this button, and it gives me that type of ore. And it also replaces itself in the vending machine, which is hidden down below. I'll use it and show you how it works, and I'll even rip up the floor so you can see the vending machine itself here in a little bit. But let's save that for the end. First, let's kind of go outside, and I'll walk you through start to finish, from rocket gathering, how I'm fueling the rocket, all the way through the final product, which is the gathering of the ore. So this is my rocket launching pad over here, and it's a pretty basic setup, honestly. I only have one ore mining module and one ice mining module. And then, of course, all the basics like the fuel and the silo. And I've found that just those two are enough to not only give me the amount more ore than I'll ever need, but it refuels. It comes up with enough gases from the ice to fuel itself indefinitely. In fact, pretty soon here, I'm going to have to put some solutions into place to prevent my hydrogen and oxygen from backing up because I'm getting too much of it. So the rocket comes back, and it's pretty simple. I have a little chute system here that when the silo unloads, it kind of drops down through here and goes through a series of stackers and sorters. So at the front here, I have 3 ice crushers, one for each type of ice, water ice, oxide, and volatiles. And it puts all of the gases that it crushes into this pipe, which goes back through this maintenance hall that I'll show you here in a minute, and goes back through my filtration system. And the water comes out of the water ice one here and goes back in that same direction. These two don't output any liquid, so I didn't need to hook up the water pipes there. Then the rest of the ore goes through, and each type of ore has its own sorter and a stacker. So as it goes down the line here, each one is filtered out until we get to the very end, and they're put in stacks of 50. If I could control my jetpack. So as you can see here, for example, this is the uranium stack. It has 17 currently. The cobalt has, or the nickel has 20. When it gets to 50, it spits it out of the stacker, goes up through the chute, and goes into its own individual silo. So I have one silo for each type of ore. When I first started this project, I really wanted to use one silo, and just for simplicity's sake. The problem with that is the way the silo works, you can't request a specific item from it. It's whatever is in first, that's what comes out first. And so what I wanted to avoid was the end product. I'm using a vending machine, and I didn't want it to run into a scenario where I request iron very frequently, and then over time I use a whole bunch of iron and I use barely any cobalt, and my vending machine just gets replaced with cobalt and no longer has iron in it. So I wanted a solution that would always guarantee that the type of ore I wanted was accessible. So to do that, I had to do a silo for each type of ore, and I will explain a little bit more in detail why that is later on. So then each silo has another chute on the output, and they're all closed by default. And then that also goes back through this maintenance tunnel here. And then of course, this should have been the first thing I discussed, but this is the fuel pipe coming from my filtration system. I mix the fuel back there and then send it through this pipe. And then I have this volume pump here that whenever the rocket is here and does not reach a certain threshold of fuel, it turns on and refuels the rocket automatically. So this is my little maintenance tunnel here where everything comes back through, goes under through here, and then this is underneath my other maintenance section here. Oh, and this is a data line here that I have specifically so that I can access the silos from the other part of my base. So yeah, the gases all come through here and go back into my maintenance hall here. So this is my filtration system. Once the rocket comes back, all of the gases that it spits out goes under here and comes back through all these filters and go into their individual tanks so that I can use them later. So this is the pipe that's coming from the rocket. And then this is the chute system that's coming with all the final ore. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it comes back and it goes underneath my base here into a vending machine, which I will show you right here. I don't remember if this is iron or not, so excuse the mess for a second. And so under here, I opened the wrong one. So this is the back of the vending machine here. Maybe I can access it from here. There it is. So you can kind of see it hiding under there. It's a little silly, but the reason I initially had the vending machine directly in the base so that I could just use it directly. The problem with that was that if you've ever used a vending machine before, and now I have to remove this thing so that I can get to the frame here. If you've ever used the vending machine before, the problem I had with it was that each individual item needs to be requested one at a time. So for example, if you have 10 stacks of iron in your vending machine, you have to go through all 10 of those stacks before you get to the next item, and so on and so forth. Which was just kind of annoying. So I wanted a system that made it a little bit easier. These back on real quick. And I'm out of battery. Bear with me just a second here. I'm doing this all in one take, so... Oh wait, no, I'm not out of battery. I'm out of steel sheets. Where'd they go? Well, I'll worry about it later. So let's put the walls back up and we'll move along here. You know what? I'll put the walls back on after the video. So yeah, let's go back inside and I will show you the vending machine output and how it works. So I did a little bit of IC to make this work the way I wanted. It required 3 ICs at the end of the day, which again I will go into, and I'll show you the code here at the end. But I needed 3 ICs because each silo needed to be a device so that I could call them individually. So the way it works is I have a dial here that I can scroll through and pick the type of ore that I want. And then I hit this button, and this does 2 things. First, it requests that type of ore from the vending machine below me. And then it sends that a signal out to the silo for that type of ore, and it opens the silo, waits a tick, and closes it again so that I get 1 stack each time I do it. So now if I want to make some steel, all I have to do is request some iron 3 times, request some coal, and throw it into the furnace, and it spits it out, and I go along my merry little way. I won't make you watch me make any steel, but you get the idea. So now this way I can easily pick whatever type of ore I want without having to scroll through the whole thing, and it's self-refilling, so it always has what I want. So let's look at the code, and I'll show you how I did it in the vending machine here. So turn off my lights. So it's relatively straightforward. Oh, this is the wrong code. This is the silo one. We'll get into that in a second. This is the vending machine code. Relatively straightforward, all things considered. It just takes the dial, a button, the vending machine, and then I have the other 2 ICs on here as well, and I'll show you why that is here in just a second. So all this really does is it reads the setting of the dial, and then depending on where it is, this line here takes that number and jumps a certain number of lines to get to whatever type of ore I want it to show. So if it's 1, it jumps 1 line and it goes to this iron here. So it changes the setting on the hash, the setting on the IC to the hash for iron. It also sets that hash, ooh, and the rocket's back. There it comes. So we'll be getting more ore here in a minute. So it sets the hash to the other ICs as well, which we'll use here in a second. Then, whenever I push the button, it jumps down here, and all it does is read the setting of the IC, which again we set to the hash of that particular ore, and it requests it from the vendor. So, pretty simple there. And then once it does that, at the same time, I have these other 2 ICs that have, now the hash has been written by the other IC onto its setting. Now it knows what type of ore I'm requesting, so all I have to do is read into that same button, and then whenever it's pushed, read the hash that's been written to it and request that type of ore from the silos. So, for example, I just requested some iron. It's going to recognize the iron hash, and what it does is it opens the silo, it waits a tick, and it closes the silo again. So then it sends 1 stack of iron into the chutes all the way down that maintenance tunnel into my vending machine, and therefore self-replacing itself. I needed 2 ICs for this because there are 10 types of ore, and so I needed a device for each one. So this one handled all those ones, and then as you can see, this one here has silver, lead, nickel, and cobalt. And that's kind of the whole process. Like I said, it gives me more ore than I've ever needed, and literally every time I do this, I end up with more hydrogen and oxygen than I know what to do. I think I've launched the rocket, I want to say 5 or 6 times, and when I started, I had something like 800 kPa of fuel and no hydrogen, and now I have 12 MPa of that and 19 of oxygen, and I'm gonna have to come up with a way to actually get rid of it at some point. So yeah, that's the whole process. That's the whole setup. I hope you like it. And if you have any thoughts on how I can improve it, like I said, please feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear your ideas. If you have any questions on how to do it yourself, let me know, and I'd be happy to help. And thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time.